Hey guys, Joy here. Today we're practicing Flexbox by building 5 responsive layouts. So let's go and check out the designs then. The link of this Figma file will be given in the description down below so that you can go and check it out. So on level 1, we're building this layout. It's called the card layout. One thing to note, every layout will carry 2 designs. One for the mobile version and another one for the desktop version, so that you can practice both Flexbox and media queries at the same time. Next up, on level 2, we're gonna build this navigation bar over here. This is the desktop version and this is the mobile version. On level 3, this is called the sidebar layout. We're gonna build this. On level 4, it's called the card layout number 2. It's quite similar to number 1. And on level 5, it's called the Holy Grail layout. Over here, at the very bottom, this is the responsive navigation menu. Well, this is for the next video, so if you're interested you can subscribe. So over this layout over here, this is the responsive navigation menu. This is the desktop version over here, and on the mobile version we're gonna build this in the next video. Okay, so this is the hamburger menu. So when you toggle over here, then you can get all the menu items over here, and when you click X you can again see the contents over here. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe because I post videos based on practical web dev projects so that you can level up your coding skills. If that sounds interesting, hit the subscribe button and join my gang. And without further ado, let's get started. Also, I have an entire article on Flexbox cheat sheet. So over here, I have created the Flexbox architecture and then the various properties and values chart. And then I have beautifully explained all the possibilities you can do with Flexbox like this. The link of the article will be given in the description down below so that you can go and revise your Flexbox knowledge. Before coding, we need to set up our environment. So come over to codepen.io and click this little gear icon and select the preprocessor to be SAS and then save and close. Alright, let's define some border padding and border color inside variables. Like this $sign. Let's define some gap of 4VH. VH means viewport height, and then define some padding over here of 4VH like this. And then let's define some color of our border. So $sign color. And then let's define our breakpoints and media queries. Over here, we're going to create a variable map called BP, and then inside the brackets, we will define our breakpoints. So for the first breakpoint, we're going to define the mobile. For the mobile version, we're going to set it to 480 pixels. For the tablet version, we're going to set it to 768 pixels. And for the desktop, although it's optional, but let's create for the desktop layout, desktop, and then set it to 1440 pixels. Now let's define our media queries over here. For this, we're gonna use mixins. So over here, right, @mixin, then we're gonna define the name to be query. Over here, we're gonna give the name of screen. Inside over here, we're gonna use a small loop so that it automatically creates 3 media queries for us. So over here, write @each $key. Before writing this, let me explain to you. These values are called the key, and these values over here are called values. So if you write $key, it's gonna target these 3 values over here. If you write $value, it's gonna target these 3 numbers over here. And then we're gonna define the map like this. And then we're gonna use a small if statement like this, @if, and then we're gonna define $screen is equal to $key. Then inside we're gonna define media queries @media then write max width of $value. This is actually defining this one, and this one is actually defining these values over here. All right, and over here write @content. So what happens is that every time when we need to define a media query, we're gonna simply write @include, then the name of our mixin over here, which is the query. We're gonna write query over here, and for which screen we need to define it. We have three options over here: mobile, tablet, and desktop. We can write whatever you can write whatever you wish from these three options. So if we need it for the tablet version, you're gonna write tablet, tablet, like this, and then you're gonna define your styles over here. Next up, we're gonna remove the default settings. So hit star and then define the margin and padding to 0 pixels. So M0px tab and then P0px tab. Then set the border, then set the box sizing to be border box, like this, and then write body, and over here we're gonna set the font family to be sans serif, and then we're gonna set the font size to be 45 pixels so that you can see what I'm trying to do, and then set the width to be 100%, W100%, and then hit tab like this, and then we're gonna set the min height property to be 100 VH like this. Alright boys, we're done with our setup. Let's start level 1. So on level 1, we're building this card layout over here. So this is actually the flow. So first of all, we're gonna create a container. It's gonna be our parent, and inside the container it's gonna create some, and inside the container it will carry some blocks, and each block will carry boxes. Okay, so if we come over to this layout over here, so this will be our container, and then each row over here will be our block, and then each of these boxes over here will be named box. All right, so let's go back to our HTML. Over here we're gonna define .container and then tab, and let's count how many rows we have. We have 1, 2, and 3. We have 3 rows, so which means that we're gonna have 3 blocks. Back to our HTML, we're gonna write .block, and then you're gonna hit star 3. It's gonna automatically create us 3 blocks like this, and then we're gonna name it 1, 2, and 3 like that. And inside every block we have, three boxes. So in order to create these 3 boxes, you're gonna write .box, then star 3, and then you're gonna hit tab like this, and you're gonna rename the boxes like 1, 2, 3, and you're gonna write A, B, C for the first row. Next up on block 2, repeat the same process like this: .box, then star 3. For this you're gonna write 4, 5, 6, then D, E, F like that. For the block 3 you're gonna do the same thing: .box, star 3, tab. It's gonna be 7, 8, 9, G, H, I. We're done with our HTML, guys. Let's start styling. Alright guys, let's start the CSS. First of all, write these lines of codes: container, alright, and in order to select all the boxes and all the blocks together, write this line of code. Okay, so this is the square bracket, then class, this sign equal to, then double quotes, then write BLOCK and then hyphen. Okay, and then curly braces. Next up, do the same thing for selecting all the boxes. Write class, Then this is, I don't know what this sign is called. I guess it's called the power sign because my teacher taught me it's called the power sign. You do it like this. 2 to the power 5 is equal to 32, like this. Okay, so you're gonna give equal to and then write over here box. Okay, then hyphen. Don't forget to give this hyphen over here, and then curly braces. So we have successfully selected all the boxes and all the blocks. Let's define. Next up, let's give some border around our blocks so that you can better see what I'm trying to do. So over here, write border 3px solid, give $ color, like that. So you can see that there is a border around our blocks. So this is our block 1, this is our block 2, and this is our block 3. And every box and every block has 3 boxes: box 1, 2, 3, box 4, 5, 6, and box 7, 8, 9, like that. And over here, if I define dflex, or if you write like that and give tab, it's gonna give us display flex. You can see that it's behaving like a row. Okay, that's because the default value of flex direction is row. So you can manually define it over here like this, flex direction column. And this is our layout. So back to our design. What we want to do is we want the boxes to behave like a row inside every block, and every block should behave like a column. So our first objective is done. The blocks should behave like a column. Back to our design, you can see that here is a small flow. So the container is the parent. So if you write display flex over here, and when you define anything inside this container, it's gonna apply in the child. So our childs are the blocks. Again, at the same time, if you define something inside the block, it's gonna automatically apply on the boxes. But if you define any property changes inside the container, it's not gonna go to the box, it's gonna go inside the block, like that. So back to our design. So we have selected flex direction column. It's gonna affect on the blocks. Okay, so we want the boxes to behave like a row. So in order to do that, first of all, you have to write dflex. So you can see that automatically it behaves like a row. That's because the default value of flex direction is row. You can further write it like this, no worries, direction to be row. Alright, next up, we want our blocks to cover entire height of our screen. In order to define that, come over to the block, and then over here write height 100 VH and then divide it by 3. It's not gonna work. That's because you have to give brackets like this, and now it's gonna work. So why did I divide it by 3? That's because we have 3 blocks, and the entire height is 100 VH. So when you divide it by 3, it's gonna be 33.33 VH each block. So that's how we're gonna do the calculations. And next up, we want our boxes to divide the width equally. In order to do that, come to the box property over here and write width. Oh, by the way, instead of using width, you can use 2 properties. The first one is flex grow. This one you can use this, or what you can use is flex basis. Okay, so right now I'm gonna show you the difference between the flex grow and the flex basis. So focus right now. So let's start with the flex grow, but before that, let's remove the borders from our blocks. Okay, so let's delete it. Let's delete it, and then inside the box, let's give a background color. So BGC tab, write C1 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 like this, and save. Okay, you can see that it looks quite ugly. And then set some border, 2px solid black. Okay, like that. And now let's define the flex grow. If you write 1, then you can see this result. In order to see the difference, let's define some border radius of, let's say, 10 pixels. So you can see that here we have a disfigured diamond shape. Okay, so what is actually happening is that we have flex grow 1, 1 and 1. So if you add 1 plus 1 plus 1 is gonna be 3. So how does these calculations apply? So let me tell you, this whole width will be calculated as 100%. So if it has 1 over here, then what will happen is, so 1 divided by 3 multiplied by 100%, it's gonna give us 33.33%, which is equal width. But we can see that it's not equal. That's because the width of G is not equal to width of I. At the same time, the width of I is not equal to A. But if you stretch it, it's responsive. But if you stretch it, then you can see that it's quite responsive. Instead of using the flex grow property, if you use flex basis, then let me show you what happens. So over here, if you define 100% divided by 3, and don't forget, without the bracket it's not gonna work. So give here brackets like this. You can see that the diamonds are exactly perfect shape. You can see the diamonds. Okay, so what is actually happening with the flex grow is that, let me bring it back. What is actually happening is that the G is actually occupying the letter G is occupying more space than I. Okay, and that's why we don't see a perfect diamond shape over here. So the flex grow actually works based on the available space, and when you define the flex basis, it's gonna give us the exact measurement, no more, no less. So that's why we are seeing the perfect diamond shape over here. All right, we're quite done. In order to center the letter, in order to take the letter at the very center, come to the box and then write d flex and then write justify content center. What it does is it horizontally takes the letter at the center. In order to take it at the center over here vertically, you're gonna write over here align items center, like that. All right, in order to set some gap between these boxes, first come over to the block element, and then write gap of $gap, which we defined earlier as 4VH. You can see that we have gap between the boxes but no gap between the blocks. In order to define that, come over to the container selector and write gap $gap, like that. We can see that we have gap between the blocks and the boxes, but you can see a scroll bar over here. So what is actually happening is that the gap is pushing our boxes, the gap is pushing our blocks below. That's why we have this scroll bar over here. But if you want the perfect layout like this one that I have built, if you want to do that, what you can do is come to the block element and remove the gaps from here, right? Minus, then $gap. Remember, we have two gaps, one over here and the next one over here. So write *2. It's gonna remove the gaps and we don't have a scroll bar right now. And then if you want to define some padding inside the container, okay, like this layout we have some padding over here. What we can do is come over to the container class and then write padding of, let's say we have defined it earlier, $padding of 4VH. Okay, again we are seeing the scroll bar. That's because the padding is actually pushing the content below. Okay, so we have two paddings. So first is this one and the next one is this one. If in order to do the perfect layout one, you can remove the padding from here by defining the same thing, minus $padding *2. We have the perfect layout over here again. And then if you want to set some border around the container like the original layout, then what you can do is come over here inside the container selector and write border of, let's say, 1VH solid, then the $color, which we defined it earlier. Okay, again we can see the scroll bar. That's because of the border over here, which is 1VH each, below and at the top. If you want the perfect layout, you can remove it. So come over here, don't go at the very last, come at the very bottom and write minus 2VH. That's because we have two borders, at the top and at the bottom. See, the scroll bar is gone. Now let's build the mobile version. Back to our original design, you can see the blocks on the mobile version is behaving like a column. At the same time, the boxes are behaving like a column as well. In order to do that, remember the boxes are inside the blocks. So over the block selector, come over here and write @include, okay, query. This is the media query we built earlier on our setup profile, on our setup stage. So write mobile. That's because we're building it for the mobile version. If you want it for the tablet version, go for it. You can change this and write tablet. Okay, then curly braces over here, write flex direction column, like that. If you resize it, then you can see this layout over here, and you're gonna have a question on your mind that why is this looking ugly? That's because this is actually defined. That's because this is actually our block over here, which is 33.33 VH. This is our 33.33 VH. What it's actually doing is it's trying to cover just 100 VH. Okay, so in order to change that, you can come over here and write height, let's say 500 pixels. So immediately you can see the change. Each and every box will carry 500 pixels of height. So you can see that after writing height 500 pixels, what is actually happening is that every block will have 500 pixels, and then on our boxes it's gonna equally divide it among themselves. Okay, so this is our block 1. Okay, and this is the box 1, 2 and then 3. Our block 1 is 500 pixels. So if you divide 500 pixels by 3, then it's gonna take that amount of height. That's because we have automatically defined our flex basis to 33.33% inside every boxes. So if you scroll, then it's gonna give us the perfect layout. So now let's test it. Okay, so this is our desktop version, the perfect layout without the scroll bar, and if you resize it again, then we can see the mobile version like that. So we are done with our level 1. On level 2, we're building this layout. This is quite simple layout to build. So let's start out. And over here, just remove these 3 selectors, nothing else. Don't delete the setup. Okay, and then in our HTML, just remove everything. And over here, write .container. Okay, then tab, and inside here I'm gonna write dot item, then hyphen star 4. That's because we have 4 items: home, about, services, contacts. I'm gonna do that thing. Hit tab, and over here write 1, 2, 3, 4. Over here write home, about, services, and then contact. Back to our CSS, you can see that it is behaving in a row. You can see that it's behaving in a column fashion, but we want it to behave like a row, like this. For the desktop version and for the mobile version, it should behave like a column, like this. In order to achieve this layout, come back to our CSS and write dot container, and inside it write dflex. As you can recall, the default value of flex direction is row, so let's write it out anyways. Row. All right, the font is actually too big to see, so let's resize it to 40, let's say 40 pixels. Do it 35 pixels then. All right, it looks quite good. And then if you want to now let's define our border. Like that. If you want to set some spacing among the items like this, what you can do is write justify content space. We have 3 values over here. On my blog, I have defined the differences between these 3 values. You can read more about it. The link will be given in the description down below. Okay, so we can go and check it out. All right, back to our design. You're gonna write space around. Okay, so you can see a lot of gaps over here. If you want to add some padding, then you can do it. Write padding and then $sign padding, which is 4VH, like that. If you want to build it for the mobile version, it should behave like a column, but currently it's behaving like a row. In order to do that, come over here and write @include query and write mobile, and then change the flex direction to column. Like that. Let's go and check it out. It works quite good. If you want to center it, if you want the items to be at the very center, then come over here and write align items center, like that. If you want to define some gaps between these items, then you can come over here, the same place, and write gap and then $sign gap, which is 4VH each. You can customize the gap between these items as much as you like by changing the value over here, or you can change it at the very top over here by changing this variable over here. Okay, so let's test. This is our desktop version. Okay, I think that it should I think that we should actually make it for the tablet version instead of defining for the mobile version, because it looks quite bad. So write tablet over here and let's test right now. Okay, so this is our desktop version and this layout starts from the tablet version. Okay, so we're done with level 2, boys. Let's start level 3. On level 3, we're building this layout over here. Okay, so back to our code pen and remove everything, we don't need it. Write dot container. Okay, write container, then tab. Okay, so what we have is just 2 blocks, the left and the right. Okay, so come over here and write dot block hyphen star 2 like that, and then write 1 and then 2 over here, and over here write left. The block 1 will be left and the block 2 will be to the right. Okay, so over here write right, R-I-G-H-T. Okay, we're done with the HTML, and then we don't need this, just remove it, and dot container. All right, so you can see that it's behaving like a column. If you write dflex, it's gonna apply flex direction row automatically because it's the default value like that. You can see that. Okay, just define it anyways, flex direction row. All right, next up, what we want is we need to separate this. If you can recall, on level 1 I showed you the difference between flex basis and flex grow. So we can use either one of them. So over here write dot block 1. Okay, so this is our block 1. Over it write left and give another comment over here and write right, and then define block 2 over here. Okay, so let's use flex grow this time instead of using the flex basis. So if you define flex grow by 2, then it is gonna take this much amount of space. But if you can define the flex grow over here, let's say the flex grow is 8, then the measurement is 2 plus 8 is equal to 10. Let me show you. So 2 plus 8 will be 10, which means that 1 will carry 10% and 2 will be 20%. So 8 is 80%. So what it actually means is that the left, or let me define some border so that you can better see what I'm trying to do. In order to select all the blocks together, come over here and write class and the power sign equal to double quotes, and then over here write block hyphen, and then write border 2px solid $sign color. Okay, I take it back. Instead of px, write 1vh each, and remove this. Because of this line of code, it's not working. Okay, you can see that. And if you want to stretch it at the very last, then over here write height 100vh. Like that, it's working. Okay, right now let me explain this math over here. So you can see that this left side, the block 1 will carry 20% of the entire width, and the right will carry 80% of the entire width. Okay, so this is actually basically the math over here. Next up, if you want to define some gap between the block 1 and block 2, remember we need to change it inside the dot container class. That's because it's the parent and the blocks are the children. So write gap, then $sign gap, like that. Voila. If you want to define some padding, then you can do it. Write over here padding, $sign padding, like that. It looks quite ugly. That's because we have 4vh extra over here. If you want to remove that, then you can come to the block over here and minus $sign padding, like that. It won't work because we have to add a small gap over here as well. Now it's gonna work, and you can see that it's still, and you can see that we still have the scroll bar. That's because the gap is actually applied at the bottom. That's because the padding also is applicable at the bottom. So we have two paddings to deal with, the first one and the bottom one. So come over here and write *2 then it's gonna give us the perfect layout like this. If you want the letter, if you want the text to be at the very center, I showed you I showed you this trick on level 1. Just come to our block element and write dflex. Then if you write flex, then if you write justify content center, it's gonna work horizontally. And if you want it to be at the middle, at the very center, then you're gonna write align items. It's gonna center it horizontally, sorry, vertically, like that. So we are done with the desktop version. Let's make it for the mobile version. Okay, it's working quite good. So this layout is actually the row. Okay, so for the mobile version, we want it to behave like a column. At the same time, it should carry 50% and this one should carry 50% of the entire height. In order to do that, let's come back to our dot container class selector. Okay, and you can see that it's currently on row. That's why it's behaving like a row. In order to change it to column, write @include, then query. Over here write mobile or tablet or whatever you wish, and then write flex direction to be column, like that. And let's go and check it out. Okay, so you can see that it's working, but what we are seeing is that it's carrying the 100% and it will carry 100% as well. If you want to change it, then come over to the block element over here and write @include query, the same lines of code, and write mobile over here, and then over here write height. You can select any value you want, but for this project I'm gonna give 50 VH, which is 50 viewport height. You can see that because of the padding we have the scroll bar. If you want to remove it, the same principle applies over here as well. $padding *2. It's gonna remove it and we have the perfect layout. If you want to give some border radius around our blocks, you can do it as well inside the block selector. So write border radius of, let's say, 10 pixels. And we have it. Because of writing it inside the media query, you're not gonna see it on the desktop version. Okay, but if you want to define it otherwise, then you can write it, then you can cut this line and paste it over here. Then it's gonna work for the desktop version as well. Alright, let's test our, alright, now let's test. So this is the desktop version. On resizing, it goes to the mobile version. Okay, let's check it out again. It's 20% and it's 80%. If you want to change the ratio, you can change it over here. Like if you want to define it, let's say 6, then it's gonna be 60%. If you write 4, then it's gonna be 40%. Okay, you can see that it's 60%. If you want to define it 9, it's gonna be 90%. And if you give it 1, then it's gonna be 10%, like that. So we're done with level 3. Let's go for level 4. So this is called the card layout number 2 for level 4. This is the desktop version. This is the mobile version. So first and foremost, we're gonna count the rows. Row 1, 2, and then 3, which means that this entire layout will have a container, the parent class. Next up, we are gonna have 3 blocks. Block 1, 2, 3. Then we're gonna have 5 boxes. Box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go back to our HTML. Before that, just remove all these stylings, which was for the level 3, like that, and remove everything. Now write dot container tab, and then define 3 blocks. Dot block *3, like that. Write the number 1, 2 and 3. Back to our design, you can see that we just need one box for the block 1, two boxes for block 2 and 3. Back to HTML, write dot box 1 tab. Over here write A. On block 2 write dot box 2 star 2, then tab, write 2 and 3. Okay, so inside the block 2 we have B and E, so just write B and E. So C and D will be inside block 3, so come over here and write dot box star 2 tab, then it's gonna be 4, 5. So C and then D. Alright boys, we're done with the HTML. Let's come back to our CSS and let's talk about some theory first. Okay, so we want A to cover the entire width 100%. Okay, then for the B, let's go back to our design. It's gonna take let's say 70% and it's gonna cover 30%. For the block 3, it's gonna carry 30% and it's gonna carry 70%. If you can recall, I taught you earlier the differences between flex grow and flex basis. So the same principle applies over here. You can use anything you want. You can either go for the flex grow, you can also go to flex basis, and you can also use the width property. Back to our CSS. Alright, let's define our selectors first. Dot container curly braces, and then select all the blocks together and all the boxes together. In order to define all the boxes and all the blocks, write square bracket and then class power sign equal to double quotes and write block hyphen block hyphen and then curly braces. For the boxes, write this one, the same thing, box hyphen. Okay, so we have defined all the box. So we have defined our selectors like this. On our design, we want the blocks to behave like a column and the boxes should behave like a row. In order to achieve this, come over to this selector and write D flex. If you hit tab, it's gonna automatically set flex direction to row, which we don't want. Okay, so write flex direction to column in order to change it. Okay, so you can see that it changed. Okay, so let me give some border so that you can better see what I'm trying to do. Okay, so border, let's say 1vh solid $sign color, like that. Okay, so this is our block 1, 2, 3, and this is our boxes. We want the boxes to behave like a row. In order to do that, come over here and write D flex tab and flex direction. If you can recall, the default value is row, so write it anyway. If you want to define the boxes to behave like a row, then come over to the block element. If you define the flex properties inside here, then it's gonna automatically apply. It's gonna get automatically applied inside this box container. That's because this is the parent, this is the child. Okay, so write D flex and then flex direction. If you can recall, the default value is row, but still apply anyways. Okay, so we're seeing the result over here. And on level 1, I showed you how you can distribute the height equally among the block elements. In order to do that, come over to the block over here and write height, then 100 vh divide 3. Why 3? That's because we have 3 blocks, 1, 2, 3. Not gonna work. That's because I also told you have to give the bracket like that. Now it's gonna work perfectly. If you want to define some gaps, then come inside the container and write gap $gap. If you want to give some padding, then write padding, then $padding, like that. And if you want the perfect layout like the design, then you can remove the padding and gap from the height like this, minus $gap *2. And then to remove the padding, write $padding *2. Okay, we have the perfect layout over here. Now remove the border from the block element like that and just paste it inside over here, inside the boxes. Okay, so it looks quite ugly. In order to fix it, now we're gonna use flex basis. Okay, so now we're gonna define the boxes individually. Write .box1 and write over here flex basis 100%. It's gonna take 100% of our width. Okay, so if you want to define the letter at the very center, I showed you this trick since level 1. So come over to the box selector and write dflex and then justify content center, align items center. We have centered the letter. Now for the box 2, first let's go back to our design. Okay, so you can see that it's 70%, 70%. So this is box 2 and this is box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 2 and 5. It's gonna be 70%. At the same time, it's 30%, 30%. It's box 3 and 4. In order to do that, write these codes .box 2 and give a comma over here and select the box 5 .box 5 and write flex basis 70%. So you can see that styles are automatically applied over here. In order to define the box 3 and 4, do the same thing. Write .box 3 .box 4 like that. Sorry. Okay, write flex basis 30%. And if you want to set some gap between the boxes, come over to this block of code. Come over to this block of code over here and write gap $gap like that. Oh, I actually defined it in the wrong place. My apologies. Cut it. Control X and then Control V over here. Shift Tab. Okay, we have the perfect layout over here. But we also need the mobile version of this. Okay, so it's not gonna work right now. Let's build the mobile version of this layout. On our design, we can see that this is the block 1, this is the block 2 and the block 3. Okay, so these blocks are behaving like a column and these are the boxes. So for the block 2, we want the boxes to behave like a column, but at the box 3 we want it to behave like a row like this. Okay, so on the first place, if we want to define this one, the block 2, then back to our CSS. So come at the very bottom and over here write @include query and write mobile. Okay, and then write .block2. Okay, and then write flex direction. We want it to behave like a column, so write column like that. Now let's go and check it out. Now it's working perfectly fine, but you can see the ratio of the height between the B and E is not as same as the design over here. We want it of equal width. Okay, so don't worry about it. I'm gonna fix that. And now for the block 3, you can see that its on a row, but it's not equal to each other. Okay, so in order to fix that, over here write dot box 3 dot box 4. Okay, you're gonna define flex basis to be 50%, so it's gonna be equal to each other. Okay, like that. If you want to define some border radius around the boxes, you can do it by going over to this block of code over here and write border radius 10 pixels, like that. Now let's fix this design over here. If you want it to be of equal height to each other, then come to our media query at the very bottom, and over here you can do the same thing. You can write dot box 2, which is B, and if you want to select the E, you can do dot box 5, like that. I forgot to give the comma over here. Don't make the mistake like me. Okay, so now it's working perfectly fine. But if you want to increase the height, you can do it. On block 2, you can define height. Okay, so come over here and write height. Okay, so if you want it to be as equal as this two over here, you can define the height to be 66.66 VH, like that. Okay, so instead of writing this, what you can do is write 100 VH. Okay, give bracket. Okay, and then give over here star 2, which is 200 VH, and then if you divide it by 3, it's gonna give us 66.66 VH. Okay, let me comment it and write it like this. Now let's check our design. So this is the mobile version over here. Okay, it's beautiful, and let's go and check the desktop version. Fabulous. So we are done, boys. Let's go for level 5. Alright guys, this is the level 5 design. This is called the Holy Grail layout. Now let's count our rows. This is the row 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, back to our CodePen editor, delete these lines of code and write dot container tab. Okay, and we have 3 blocks, if you can recall from the design, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so write dot block star 3. Okay, then write 1, 2, 3. Okay, now on block 1 we just have 1 box, so write dot box -1, then tab. Okay, and over here write A. On block 2 we have 3 boxes. Let's define it 20%, 60%, and then 20%. If you can recall, on level 1 I showed you the difference between flex basis and flex grow. You can use any one of them in this layout. Alright, back to our HTML, write dot box -star 3. Okay, write over here 1, 2, 3, and over here write B and C and D. C, D, like this. It's working like this. That's because I didn't actually remove the default codes of block of level 3, of level 4. So from here remove everything. Don't remove the set of codes of this. Okay, otherwise it's not gonna work. So back to our HTML. On block 3 what we have is just 1 box, E. So write dot box -1, 2. Oh, I actually wrote it wrong over here. You're gonna write 2, 3, 4, and then over here write 5. Okay, then hit tab. Let me recheck it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and then write over here E, like that. Okay, so this is our block 1, 2, 3. All right, boys and girls, we are done with our HTML. Let's go to the CSS and start styling. Okay, so the old rules: first select everything dot container and then to select the blocks, write class, then power sign equal to double quotes block hyphen and then curly braces like that, and then in order to select all the boxes, write class power sign equal to then box hyphen then curly braces. Okay, so first and foremost we want the blocks. So first and foremost we want the blocks, okay, to behave like a column. In order to do that, come over here and write dflex. Okay, then flex direction, the default value is row. So if you write row, then it is gonna behave like a row, which is default, but we want it to behave like a column. Okay, so write column over here, and then we want the boxes to behave like a row. In order to do that, inside the block we're gonna write dflex. The default value of flex direction is row, so write it anyways like that. Let's set some border around our boxes so that we can easily see what we are actually trying to do. Write border 1vh, okay, solid, then write $color. Now over here write .box1. We're gonna individually target them and then we're gonna apply flex basis. So over here write flex basis of 100%, like that. And we also want flex basis 100% for E. The E is box 5, so write comma dot box 5 like that, and it's gonna automatically apply it over here. If you want the text to be at the very center, if you can recall, I'm showing you this trick since level 1. So come over to the box and write dflex, then justify content center. It's gonna center horizontally. For the vertical axis, write align items, then center, like that. It's gonna work. All right, for the B, C, and D, okay, let's apply our magic. For the B and D, let's pull our design first. For the B and D, we are to set the flex basis 20%. Okay, so let's select them all together. B is number 2 and this is 3, 4. So we need to select box 2 and 4. So dot box 2 comma dot box 4. Okay, right over here flex basis 20%. So you can already see the design difference. And then for the box 3, which is C, right over here dot box 3 flex basis is gonna be 60%, like that. All right boys, for the height, okay, let's go back to our design. Let's say that this is 20 VH, okay, and this is 20 VH, which is 40 VH done. So the remaining spaces can be occupied by block 2. In order to do that, come back to our CSS, and we don't need to write any extra selectors. Just come over here and write height, let's say 20 VH each. So you can already see the difference. And then for the block 2, what we can do is if you define the value over here, it's going to apply automatically. At the same time, if you apply it over here, it is going to apply automatically throughout the entire block. So don't worry about writing the same code everywhere. Just write. Let me actually show you the difference. Okay, so if you write height of, let's say 200 pixels, this is just a demo. Okay, don't write it. You can see that I'm just applying the height 200 pixels on box 3. It's applying everywhere. Okay, that's because the block is stretching because of the box 3. But if you just cut it and paste it over here, see, I'm just applying the height to box 2, which is B and D, and the C is enjoying the benefit over here of height 200 pixels. At the same time, if I define the height over here on just the box 3, which is just C, B and D are enjoying the benefits without any reasons. That's because it's stretching. Okay, so just keep it over here. Then if you hit Shift Tab, then it's gonna align your code like that. All right. Okay, so remove the 200 pixels and what we have is 60 VH. Okay, write 60 VH over here. So it's gonna occupy entire height. In order to define some gap between the blocks and the boxes, so come over here to the box property and write gap $gap like that, which is 4 VH. It's gonna apply my apologies, it's not over here. Write it inside the block. So it's gonna apply some gap over here, and if you apply the gap inside the container, then it's gonna apply the gap between the block elements. In order to define some padding, you can do it over here, $padding. So we can see the scroll bar over here. That's because of the padding and the gap. If you want to remove it, then come to our box 3 and over here minus $gap *2 and then minus $padding *2 like that, and it's gonna give us the layout we want. Okay, so if you want to define some border radius between the boxes, come to this block of code over here and write border radius of 10 pixels like that, and it's gonna work. All right boys, we're 50% there, just 50% left, which is just the mobile version. Okay, so if I go back to my design over here, you can see that the boxes which were once behaving like a row is behaving like a column on our mobile version. But here's the trick, we don't have the B over here. The B was here and it's not here, we're hiding it. Okay, this is a trick, learn it from me. Now back to our CSS. Okay, so in order to define the boxes of block 2 as a row, come at the very bottom and over here write @include query mobile like that, and then you're gonna write .block2 block 2. We just need to change block 2 because block 2 has 3 boxes. Okay, so over here write flex direction row, sorry, it's column like that, and let's go and check it out right now. Okay, it's behaving perfectly fine, but it shrunk. All right, we can see that block 2 has shrunk. Okay, in order to change that, come over to here and write height of 60 VH. Okay, in order to remove B from here, come over here and write .box2. That's because the B has a class name box2. Okay, and write D-N-O-N-E tab, which is display none, and it's gonna remove it from there. And you can see that that extra gap is over here. That's the gap of B. In order to adjust that, what you can do is over here write .box3, and you can add, and over here you write flex basis of 80%. It was 60% before. Okay, you can see that it got adjusted automatically. Why 80%? Okay, that's because B was carrying 20%. Okay, C was carrying 60%. As B is gone, as the B is gone, we have 20% extra. So we're adding it to box 3. So it was 60% and 20%, which is 80% right now, and now it has adjusted automatically like that. All right, boys and girls, let's go and check our design. This is our desktop version over here, and if we resize it, then it's our mobile version. Okay, So we're done with our tutorial, guys. If you like the video, give a like, share it with a friend, and feel free to subscribe to my channel. Till then, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.